Okay, well, my name is Angel Lugo, and this is my presentation for the General Handbook Rack. So, this is just a small project that is going to use retrieval augmented generation to answer questions about the General Handbook of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So, why did I choose this project? It is because this handbook is huge. It has a lot of information. Sometimes church leaders have problems like to find the right information for their answers. And I thought maybe this approach would help them get the right information they are looking for. So I'm going to start by explaining just how it works. It is very easy, the way it works. And maybe you guys know or have an idea of how this might work. So it starts with the GradU app that calls this function respond. This function respond takes the message of the user, like the question, and the chat history if there is more than one message from the LLM, the user, the LLM. Then it calls this function query pinecone with ID, which embeds the answer of the user, then checks for the vector database, which in this case is a pinecone database, and retrieves the content that is more similar to the user request. Then I just get that into this format chat prompt function that just gives a format of a chat, like it organizes the answers. And then it uses the text generator to pass it to the LLM and answer the question. Once we have the questions, we pass the message and the response to the chat history and show the answer back to the GradU app. So it is just that. 3 functions, and that's how it works. So from my previous presentation, well, I showed that there were two main things I focused on. One was the data structure and chunking, the way I recollected all my data. And the second was how I was retrieving and showing to the LLM the data so the LLM could answer the question. So I'm going to show you just a couple of changes I made. In my first approach, after crawling all the content and the HTML of the page, I have an example of how the HTML looks. What I did was extract just the text initially in my first approach, and then using regex, I would search for this pattern here. Let me show you. This pattern here. You can see the section numbers almost all around the general handbook. And for me, that was like the way I would look for chunks of text. My idea was to use these sections as the chunks to then save them in the database, and I would use them to retrieve an answer. The problem with this approach was that the answer or the chunking was not perfect because sometimes you will have like references to other sections, like for example here and here, and I was getting some weird chunks with this. I have an example here, this example 0. This was the structure I was getting with my first approach, and it seems like very good. This first part is the content of the section, but as you can see, sometimes I would get just this, like see this section. So this chunk of data was not relevant to answer a question. That was the problem. In my second approach, I was thinking of changing to Markdown, but I remember that Leo had a similar project, so I just tried to go down with HTML to see if I could get a good chunking using maybe the structure of the HTML, and I did. With this approach, only using beautiful soup to chunk the data, I got a better result. Now I had almost all of the sections as I wanted. And this was way better because sometimes even though this seems like different sections, sometimes many of them pertain just to one section. But there was this pattern that we would have a paragraph and then a heading, and I followed that pattern to extract each section as a separate section and not all of them in just one section or one chunk. And yeah, it worked really well. So the second change I made was the way I was retrieving the information so the LLM could answer the question. In my first approach, I was just using the top K results. And this was the what I was showing the LLM to answer the question, like the chapter, the header, the section, the URL, and the content. From the top results, but this was not very good. I'm going to show you later why. In my second approach, I changed to just show the metadata from the top result, and I was showing five chunks above the top result and five chunks after. Like this time I was using a context window. So if the right answer was in one chunk, the LLM could see like more context to answer better the question. And well, let me show you a few examples. I have this first question, like to see a chart for word and state callings. And let's go there. So let's submit. Let's see what we got. Okay. The general handbook has a chart listing selected and code is in section 30.8. So in this case, the LLM is answering with a reference to where I can find a chart and a link to the chapter. I'm going to point out some problems here, but not yet. And I'm going to compare it with the previous answer. It was almost the same. But I'm going to go with the next one. What are the responsibilities of the eldest quorum president? As you can see, it has like an answer in two like sentences. Now I'm gonna go. And this time, instead of just having two sentences in my answer, I have a lot more of responsibilities for the eldest quorum president. I have the exact section where you can find that information and a link to the chapter where you can find, well, more information on that if you want. Next, what does the church say about immigration? What I choose this question as an example, it was because in my previous approach, this small section was part of a larger section and it got lost in the answer. Like the LLM could not find a proper answer. It was kind of there. So this time, what does the church say about immigration? And we have a better response now. It is a little more detailed with again, some references for the user. So if they want to find more information about it, they can use them. Next question. What are the questions for the temple recommend interview? In this case, the LLM wasn't able to answer the question because it didn't get the information for this question. But this time, what are the questions for the temple recommend interview? This time it has a list of the questions. Again, references, so you can find more information. And it has all the questions listed. Finally, oh, that's it. Okay, for examples. Yes. So it certainly improved. What I think helped the most was the context window and also the newer chunking, because this time I was getting more similar chunks. Something I was about to say about this chart of Collins is that this time I'm passing to the LLM like all the HTML in this chart. So it is very difficult for the LLM to show it. Sometimes it would show it, sometimes it doesn't. And maybe it is because it is just a lot of information. It just sends you the reference and where you can find a chart and well, yeah, see it for yourself. And another problem I found with this is it was that uh, it just finds this chart with this question or with this precise uh, selection of words. If I try a different question, what are the callings in a word, for example? It finds something different. Oh, well, this time it found exactly the same. But yeah, sometimes it would find something different. I don't know why. Still, I'm still researching. There are some things to improve. Also, sometimes the LLM would prompt you, like, do you want to know more about this subject? But because I don't save the previous results from the database to save some space in the context window, I don't want to uh, put a lot of context in the LLM. You would answer yes, but it could not give you more information because it would return like information from the database based on this yes that you put, and it would get maybe some context from the previous response the LLM gave. So yeah, there is still room for improvement. I was thinking of maybe providing function calling so the LLM could maybe use these section numbers to retrieve more context from the database and answer the questions. But yeah, those are future improvements. But this is my demonstration of the General Handbook chatbot. There was improvement, and well, yes, thank you.